Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, we are on week
I think 9.
9,
Think
probably. We are definitely on March 4th. I think that's week 9. And so Deuteronomy 6 through Deuteronomy 28
28,
is
29.
where we,
Yep.
okay. And so if you guys are catching this video for the very first time, you haven't watched any of the other ones, and you're wondering, what the heck is this? We, along with Cane Creek, the church, along with friends, honestly, all over the country, really have jumped in and said, hey, we're going to do this Bible reading plan together, and we're just going through the Bible in a year. And so the average person, I think they figured out, takes about 10 to 15 minutes a day to read the Bible in a year. And we're all doing it together on a Bible reading plan. And yeah, so if you're with us and you've been with us from the beginning, great, man. We are rocking on. We've January, February, we're into March. If this is the first time, jump in with us. Don't go back to Genesis 1. In fact, if you Deuteronomy 1 through 9 really just recaps everything else. So whatever day you're on, grab the Bible reading plan, jump in with us, and let's go. So we have some questions. A lot of the questions from this section, Deuteronomy 6 through 28, 29, focus on, this is the passage. They've come out of Egypt. They chose not to go right into the promised land because they were afraid. They wandered for a while, and now they're about to go in. Okay. And so a lot of questions come up with why. Why is it okay for the Israelites to go and take over these people's lands and wipe them all out, and why is that okay?
Yeah.
So, and there's all kinds of variations on this question. One is why the Israelites? Are they better than other people? Why is it okay to kill people? All of this stuff. And so I want us to kind of reframe, because that's kind of a big question, and it all starts with what angle we're looking at from.
Right.
For instance, and the why is it's a wicked people. We read about they're killing their own babies, and then everything else is kind of minor to that. But the big thing is they're murdering their babies. And had God wiped them out with a hurricane, we wouldn't have all these questions.
Right.
Agreed? If God had sent a huge, I'm not sure if a tidal wave could, maybe a tornado. Well, God can do what he wants. But if God had sent a big natural disaster, we'd have a different side of kind of questions, right? And so really the question isn't why did God wipe them out in their wickedness. The question really in our mind centers with why did God use people to wipe them out? Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay. Because if we take the people out of it, then we don't have these moral ambiguities.
Right, exactly.
So our question really is, why did God use people? And then specifically, why did he use Israel?
Right.
Go.
I don't have any idea.
I would say that I think God used people in that part of the redemptive plan for the same reason that God had man name the animals. And for the same reason that he had Noah build an ark. And for the same reason that he had Moses split the sea. Throughout the entire redemptive story, the only plan A for God to rescue people in this world is the church. And there is no plan B. People are rescued when we share the gospel, when we proclaim the gospel. They're talking, he says, the kingdom of heaven, violent men take it by force, right? We're marching forward, the gates of hell these are military terms. And so I would say that in this part of the redemptive plan, God used mankind because that's what he does. And it all goes back, in my opinion, to God saying, let us make man in our image. And he makes us as workers, co-creators, co-laborers with him in that plan. And this part of the redemptive plan, God chose to use a nation because that's how God works.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because our real problem isn't that God did it. Our real problem is that God used man to do it.
Right.
But we don't often ask that question. I think he did that because that's how God works.
Yeah.
God could have named all the animals. He didn't need Adam to name the animal, right?
He could have just told them what they were.
2, why'd God use Israel to do it? Because it's like, is Israel this holy? Holy. This morally upright, virtuous. Well, no. This whole book is about them going astray. God bringing them back. Right. Them going astray. But in Deuteronomy, let's see if I can. The great thing about only taking 1 week at a time is that it doesn't take long to find stuff. So Deuteronomy 7, it says, the first 5 verses, he's saying, you're going to do all these things to these people, and then it says, here's why. Verse 6. So chapter 7, verse 6. You are a holy people to the Lord your God. Holy, they're not being morally upright. It means you're set apart. That's what holy means. Okay. The Lord your God has chosen you. Why? Because he chose you. That's why. He chose you to be a people for himself, a special treasure above all the peoples of the face of the earth. The Lord didn't set his love on you nor choose you because you are more in number than any other people, for you are least of all these. But because the Lord loves you, because he would keep the oath which he swore to your fathers. All right. That's it. That's why. That's why he chose Israel, because he made promises, and this is just a group he chose to choose so that he could look at the rest of the world and say, see, this is the city on the hill. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So, good?
Good.
All right. Then we have Deuteronomy 11:17. We have a mention of drought. Verse 11:17. You want me to wait for you?
Yeah, I'm almost there.
Okay.
Everybody just switched up. All right, I'm there.
All right, since you're there, why don't you read it?
All right. Or the anger of the Lord will be kindled against you, and he will shut up the heavens so that there will be no rain, and the ground will not yield its fruit, and you will perish quickly from the good land which the Lord is giving you.
Okay. So we see here God causing a drought. Mm-hmm. And so the question then is drought always caused by God? And the follow-on question is, well, isn't drought sometimes caused by weather patterns or global warming or, certain coastal, just all the things you see on the Weather Channel? Mm-hmm. Isn't drought caused by that? Mm. Because here it says that drought's caused by God.
Yeah, I think all droughts are caused by God. I think all of the things that happen in the weather are caused by God. I think he directs all of that.
Okay. So what do you say to someone who says, I think that the drought and weather is caused by coastal winds and weather, heat movement, temperature movements as they move and all the things that we learned about in science class?
Well, I think the two can be hand in hand. I think God could cause those movements, which then causes the...
Yeah. So, no, you're absolutely right. It's... And the reason I ask is because really what we're doing is we're asking two different questions, but we're not often aware.
Right.
Science tells us, for instance, let's talk about a rainbow. Science tells us how a rainbow is formed. Science doesn't tell us why a rainbow is formed. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Right.
A rainbow is formed because light travels at different waves, and as it hits the water, it refracts, and then we see the white light split into several different colors. That's how a rainbow is formed.
Right.
Why a rainbow is formed is because God made a promise.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so, yeah, exactly what you said. how God causes a drought is all kinds of various different weather phenomena.
Right.
Why we have a drought? Yeah, it's always because of the Lord.
Right.
Now, we have to be careful not to carry that over and to say, well, California has a drought because California is wicked. Yes, California often has droughts, and yes, California is wicked. But we have to be careful in saying this drought is because this person did this sin. God is big and God is sovereign, and oftentimes we want to personalize things, and so I'd warn us to be careful about saying, "Oh, this drought is because of that person and that sin." But yeah, we see that God commands the winds and the waves. Elijah prayed that it wouldn't rain, and it didn't. Then he prayed again it would. When Jesus is when Jonah, God sends a storm, and just likewise in Mark 4, Jesus sends a storm, and Jesus stops the storm, and they say, "Who is this that even the winds and the waves obey?" Okay, this is fun. You ready?
Okay.
All right. Deuteronomy 22, verse 5.
Can you read that?
I'll read it.
Okay. Yeah.
A woman shall not wear anything that pertains to a man, nor shall a man put on a woman's garment, for all who do so are an abomination to the Lord your God. So says Deuteronomy 22, verse 5. Okay.
I think that's pretty clear there what the Lord is saying.
Why? Why is it an abomination to the Lord?
Because he created man and woman distinctly.
He did.
Female and male.
And when it says he created them male and female in the image of God, he created them. Right. That's how it follows up. And so we live in a world that is right now passionate about that verse not being biblical, or about God not. When it says it's an abomination to the Lord, that's not culturally an abomination, and then when the culture changes, it ceases to be an abomination. That abomination is the strongest word you can really use to say God hates this. Right.
It's trying to change the image that he's created.
That's right.
Himself. Yeah.
In the beginning, God created. He said, "Let's create man in our own image," and then it says He created them male and female in God's image, like the maleness and the femaleness. Uniquely masculine, uniquely feminine vessels are a picture of the Godhead. And even if we don't understand all of what that means, by taking away part of that, by saying you're going to dress up like a man, and we're going to remove the uniquely feminine aspect from that created image, is to hide, essentially to hide, to conceal, to cover up part of what it is to be made in God's image.
Right. Yep.
And here's how far I think we've fallen as a culture. For a man to dress like a woman, we all know what that means, right? I could go dress like a woman. You're like, oh, he's dressed like a woman. For you to dress like a man, no one would notice. Right? Mm-hmm. For a woman to dress like a man in today's culture, no one would notice, because
to some degree.
You'd really have to caricaturize it. Right. Right? But men and women, for the most part, jeans and a t-shirt, we look exactly alike. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Something to think about.
It is something to think about.
Yeah, and then the last thing, Deuteronomy 24:16, basically points out that people are not... You're not guilty if your kids go off and act sinfully. And we spoke a little bit about this on Sunday when we talked about...
the reversal about the kids not taking on the sins of their fathers.
That's right. We talked about critical race theory, the idea that people with less melanin in their skin have inherited guilt from their ancestors. And so Ezekiel and several places in the Bible point out that's not true. That's not how that works. So that's all the questions I had handed to us. Any thoughts as you were going through it?
All the death and stuff was a little hard for me to be reading or listening to. Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I think you've got some good points that we looked at here, and
yeah, it's interesting. It is. It's a book about. There's a lot of death in this book, and it's important for us to remember as we read through this book that all of this death. The whole point of this book is that God overcame death. That man created death. And this is a book about God overcoming that death. And so, there's a lot of death in this book, and that's kind of the point. The point is that God designed us pure and good and upright, and we rebelled, we being mankind, bringing death in, and Jesus, God the Son, became death. He died to solve this problem of death. We talked about if God had sent a natural disaster to wipe all these people out, we wouldn't have this moral ambiguity, because we realize that for us, death is just the next thing.
Right.
And we can realize that because death has been defeated. And since death has been defeated, the idea, we don't have to be terrified of it. And that's the gospel. The gospel is that God the Son defeated death on a cross when God the Father poured out the wrath that we deserve on him. And now we don't, eternal life.
Right.
Cool stuff.
That's cool stuff.
Cool. All right, that's Deuteronomy up to 28. So just Deuteronomy. Joshua. So next week, yes. So if you have been just hanging on, or even, let's get real. I know for a fact some of you guys have not really been doing the reading, but you've just kind of been checking into the video. Listen, we've gotten past the sockets and the banners and the palm tree. We've gotten past the temple and the tent. We've gotten past the sacrifices. Next week, next week we jump into Joshua. Man, we're getting into all the Old Testament stories you learned as a kid. We're going through narrative. So I think that we're leaving the funnest part of the Bible, but I realize that for some of you guys, it's not your cup of tea. And so I would say we've gotten past the hard stuff. Jump in with us. You're going to have a good time. So read the Bible every day.
Yes.
One of the things we learned in this section of Scripture is he says, when you guys get in the promised land, you're going to want a king. And here's what I want the king to do. I want the king to read my law every day. I want the king to read my law every day, because that will keep you from going astray. Mm-hmm. It will allow you to lead in a good and upright way. And here's the thing. If you are a believer, if you are a Christian, God has put you in your circle to lead. And there's a lot that we say, like the servant leadership idea, if you lead by serving. But here's what the Bible says. You serve by leading. God gave Adam dominion over all of the animals, including the serpent.
Right.
But he didn't exercise that dominion over the serpent.
Right.
And now we're all in this situation. And we see over and over again people not exercising their God-given authority in this book, and it wreaking havoc in lives around them.
Yeah.
And so, listen, if you're a believer, while it is important to lead by serving, God has called us to serve by leading. Mm-hmm. And He has made you a king and a priest. And if you're not reading this Bible every day, you are not going to be able to lead the way that He has put us here to change the world around us.
Right.
So 15 minutes every day, more or less, depending on how you read. It'll change your life. Jump in with us. Next week is Joshua. Cool?
Cool. All right, bye.